Hey everyone, Adam from the present here. This podcast was recorded way back on the 7th of March this year. Just to assuage any confusion as to why we talk about the Snyder Cut like it's in the future or anything like that, sit back, relax and enjoy. And as ever, if you enjoy the video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Hey everybody, welcome to Passable Media. I'm Adam.
And I'm Chris.
And today we are going to be doing a video just about DC in general, mainly focusing on the DCEU.
Yeah, it comes from really, was it your first video of 2021, Wonder Woman?
Yes, my Wonder Woman review.
Yeah.
That's kind of what got me back into doing the YouTube stuff.
Yeah, so I watched that. I was intrigued. People will be very upset to hear that I had not watched the movie when I watched your review.
Was my review, out of curiosity, was my review the first Wonder Woman thing you'd watched, or had you watched other stuff that had already coloured your opinion of it?
I had not watched any videos, but I had seen, I hadn't really read any articles, but I'd seen like headlines.
Yeah.
So I knew there was some, controversy and negative opinions towards it.
Cool, okay.
But after watching your video and finding out that there was nothing you liked about it, I thought this cannot be true. There has to be something good about this movie. So I thought I'd give it a watch.
And your thoughts of the movie that there must be something positive to say?
I've tried. It was hard. I'm not gonna lie. There's some problems, but I'll try and go through a few things that I thought, these were all right. These I like these, and then we'll get into we'll get into it.
Okay.
First thing, I still enjoyed Chris Pine in this movie.
That's fair.
I did not enjoy how dumb they made him. I think that he was a little bit too dumb. I understand why, what is it, 50, 60 years?
Yeah, it's 70, I think.
70 years? So, yeah, okay, there's going to be a lot of things that he's going to, not know about. But I'll take a line from Cinema Sins. Chris Pine didn't even care.
No.
He was there to have a good time. I thought he was brilliant. He hammed it up as well as he could. And I thought that...
There's something about the half grin that's always on his face, isn't there?
Yeah, and with that, with the Chris Pine goodness, I enjoyed the juxtaposition of the mirroring of the scene they did with the dressing up. Because obviously they did that in the first one with Wonder Woman trying to put her in normal clothes to, disguise her. So I enjoyed the whole, it's Steve now, dressing up in all the different outfits. It just seemed like he enjoyed himself.
Because I really enjoyed that scene in Wonder Woman 1, and for some reason, possibly because of just the blind hate I had for the film, I completely forgot that little homage.
Yeah, it was good. We got to see him in stupid outfits and
then still end in a stupid outfit.
Yeah, typical 80s. It was a callback to the first movie. It was a callback to the 80s. I enjoyed it.
So does this mean you think that the reason they in fact brought back Chris Pine in as they did was in fact because he is the only positive thing about the film?
Yeah. I mean, Wonder Woman wasn't a positive thing in the film, so you have to have something.
I feel like she had to, and I don't think I mentioned this in the video, I feel like she basically relearned everything she learned in the first film, in addition to literally re-stepping Steve's sacrifice from the first film and then stealing it from him and making it her own.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you, because I don't know if you mentioned it in the video or if it was just a general chat between us, but obviously in this movie she does the whole learning to fly.
Yes.
And you said she learned to fly in the first movie.
Yeah.
And I cannot remember where she learned to fly. I'm assuming it was the last fight with Ares or something.
It was instinctive, like she wasn't doing it consciously, but in the last fight against Ares, she was flying. And there was like a look of surprise as she looks down and realizes that she's not on the ground anymore, sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
And I just, from a real life person looking at any superhero media, one of the thing that annoys me the most about superhero media is where time passes and they don't get any better. If I found out tomorrow that if I had super speed, for instance, you can bet your bottom dollar that by the end of the week I would know exactly what my limits are and whether those limits can improve.
Which, getting a little bit off topic,
is
where Shazam shines.
Yes!
Because He does test his abilities.
Yes.
He wants to know what he can do, how far he can go. And he's got his little sidekick to help him with it.
Yeah, and as you pointed out to me, did you point it out to me in the comments of the video?
I did.
I completely forgot about Shazam in that video. And that's a travesty, because Shazam is the best thing in the DCEU by a country mile.
Yeah, 100%. It's my favourite since Man of Steel, obviously.
It's interesting you say that, because I thought you didn't like Man of Steel.
Well, yeah, but that's just, if I have to pick a second movie,
okay,
it's I mean, what else have I got to pick from?
Does that mean you weren't a big fan of Wonder Woman?
Okay, no, sorry, I forgot. I forgot, because this one has tainted my...
That's how I feel! I feel like this one was so bad, it ruins Wonder Woman 1 for me.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I forgot to look up before this. Did Patty Jenkins, did she direct this second one?
I don't think she did. I think it was someone else. One sec.
That would explain a bit, I feel.
No, it was Patty Jenkins, interestingly enough.
It was. Okay.
If you search Wonder Woman 1984, the first thing that comes up is not director, but Disney Plus, as though people still don't quite realise that DC and Marvel are two different companies.
People are stupid. Why can I not watch Wonder Woman on Disney Plus?
There was a thing the other week where they were like, oh, this was ruined by the lack of appearance of this person. I think someone argued that why was Wonder Woman not in Endgame? Like, she was perfect.
Oh, yeah.
No. It was completely different media. It was, where's Chun-Li in the Mortal Kombat movie? Where is a character from Street Fighter in the Mortal Kombat movie? And it was just like, you don't know what you're writing about. You haven't done 15 seconds of journalism.
They're the same thing. Do they fight?
Oh, man. It's the same arrogance that people have towards superhero shows.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, like the Avengers and The Boys, for instance, are completely uncomparable. Like, superheroes are setting, and then you can have any genre within that you want, and anything else.
I'd agree with that, and Marvel has shown that.
Yes!
Because you've got spy thrillers, you've got space operas.
WandaVision.
Origin. Yeah. They have shown that you don't... It's not just a superhero movie. You can have a genre within that.
Yeah.
I've not seen it, and I don't know if I will ever see it, but obviously the mutant one that Fox...
Oh, New Mutants?
New Mutants.
I watched that. Me and Jade watched that around Christmas, before we watched Wonder Woman. And it's, to be fair, it's not awful. It's not good, but it's not the worst X-Men franchise film, like, from that universe. You can very much see the damage that is caused by reshoot after reshoot after reshoot. Character motivations are all over the place, and they didn't lean into the horror enough to really call it a horror film.
Yeah, well, that's where I was going. Obviously, their first marketing stuff was, this is the first horror superhero movie.
Yeah.
So you can have a lot of different things within that setting. It's a good way of putting it. It's a setting instead of a genre.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I see it as well. On that subject, tangent central here, we were like, we're going to talk about DC, and then we talked about how we weren't covering WandaVision and have slid into talking about the New Mutant.
We were bound to get to Marvel at some point.
It was going to happen,
it took us,
right?
Yeah, it only took us 10 minutes to get to Marvel.
Adam and Chris talk about DC, but also mainly Marvel. Were we still working together when Martin Scorsese made his comments?
I cannot remember. I half remember him saying stuff about it, but we must have been. It was ages ago.
It was ages ago, wasn't it? Because I feel like, especially, I mean, not to drag it into Marvel too much, we're going to move on from this, I promise, but WandaVision proves Martin Scorsese wrong.
Yeah.
Like, completely. And I don't honestly think there was a need to prove him wrong, because I feel like Marvel made that argument before he'd even made the comments. I feel like DC is super guilty of what he was going on about, but I do not accept that just superhero media cannot be considered proper media. It's really gatekeepy.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about how comics are, for kids, and that they're not real stories and things like that. We could go into into that for hours because obviously it's just not true.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, there is, just so that I've got the number here, there is a 117,195 article DC wiki that would disagree with you about how much content there is in these stories.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how people still think that nowadays.
Now, there are criticisms to be thrown at the comics industry, and to be honest, it boils down to studio interference, which is exactly the issue that affects just Warner Brothers as a whole, and thankfully not Marvel, but very much Marvel Comics. Just in terms of comic sales, the entire American comic book industry, and I think this was in September, but I will put a little annotation if I've got the dates wrong. I think it was September, the entire American comic books industry was outsold by one Japanese manga.
Wow.
Like, that goes to show that the audience is surprisingly small, but honestly, the audience has been going down and down and down and down because they're not focusing on the things that people have always come to comics for. And a lot of that comes down to they want, like, new writers have come in and they desperately want to do something new and something different, but they're doing that at the expense of what came before rather than doing it alongside what came before.
I'm gonna say one more thing and then I'm gonna drag it back to Wonder Woman.
Cool.
The studio interference in the film industry for Marvel and DC, do you think that's because Marvel have their own studio and DC are still using Warner Brothers?
Yes, 100%. But there's also, like, DC's internal stuff on its own is really bad. Like, to use the comics as a jumping off point for the argument, and one very close to my heart, but one among many, Batman Beyond, in the Future's End universe, got axed at issue 52, because of course it was issue 52, because New 52, it's a big number with DC, because yay. But it got axed, not because the story had come to a natural end, but because they wanted room for new titles. Batman Beyond is, like, the best Batman title, empirically. It does new stuff while sticking to the old stuff, and the studio, because they were doing cuts, they were just like, well, you know, that's been around for a while, let's get rid of that and and not even reboot it like they do with other stuff. And I could argue for hours about reboots and the evils of reboots in the comics industry. I got into a bit of a rage spiral in my head there, and my mouth wasn't moving fast enough to keep up with my head. I tell you what, let's go back to Wonder Woman, because we'll definitely get on to the Batman comics in our next segment.
Yeah, so drag it back. Let me see. I don't have many more good comments to make. The mall scene, that made me think of Stranger Things, so that was a plus.
That was the same mall, wasn't it?
It looked very similar.
Yeah.
It must have been. How many malls, or I don't know if it's a real mall or if it's a set, but these things get moved about, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to fact check myself, but I was almost certain when watching it that it was the same mall.
It looked like it, just different, a little bit of different dressing on it, but that was it. So my final thought, a whole movie and I've got like 4 things to say about it.
More than I had.
I'm going to need to caveat this quite heavily.
Okay.
Because it's only like one aspect. So I quite enjoyed the fact that Maxwell Lord was not just an evil person for evil's sake.
Mm-hmm.
He was fairly complex. He was damaged. He was doing it was for himself, but he was doing what he kind of thought was right, even though he was a bit of a...
Yeah. I mean, like, he was an arch-capitalist in a time where, you know, communism was the evilest evil that ever eviled. So, I mean, you could argue that in his time, he was like, a paragon almost.
But going from one of the worst things about the original movie was the reveal that, you know, it is Ares, right?
Yeah, Ares.
Yeah, Ares was real, and he was kind of actually causing the war, you know, because he is basically just evil.
Yeah.
Because that's who he is. I thought the Lord was a bit more of a complex character with actual motivations. Complete selfish, you know, gets away with it in the end, which, you know, isn't very satisfying. You know, kid should have punched him in the face a few times.
Yeah.
But he wasn't just evil.
No, and that's fair. And after a film of ignoring his child, he did suddenly realise, oh god, like, my kid's gonna get caught up in this.
Yeah, you know, maybe should have thought about that, but no, he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a good person, but he's not pure evil.
No, he's not just evil for evil's sake. They could have done it much better, obviously, and they could have given him proper motivation. But, you see a little bit of, okay, he's had a bad childhood. That's the go-to in these kind of movies, isn't it? You've had a bad childhood, you grow up to be a dictator. Like, that doesn't happen in, like, it must happen in some places, but, like, it's not everyone that has a bad childhood.
I mean, it's funny you mention that, because I was waiting to say a thing, and you've literally just cut my next piece to ribbons, which is, I was gonna say that the two most complex villains other than him in the DC EU would be, for me, Black Mask and Sylvanas. Bad guy of Birds of Prey, bad guy of Shazam.
Okay, yes. And
both of whom were crappy childhoods.
I've not seen Birds of Prey.
Have you not?
No, I've not seen Birds of Prey. To be honest, I haven't seen most of the recent DC
Okay. I mean, I will say that Birds of Prey, as I mentioned in the video, like, Birds of Prey, it's not amazing, but it is leaps and bounds above, like, half of the DCEU. And having remembered about Shazam, I would put, like, Wonder Woman, Shazam, Birds of Prey, and, like, Aquaman then in the middle somewhere, and then the rest of it.
You've read my mind, because I was going to ask you about the villain, because people say that Marvel has a villain problem, but DC has a villain problem.
But Marvel has a problem with killing off their good villains.
Yeah, but DC's villains, I cannot think of any really great villains they've had.
No. Man of Steel, you had Zod, who is dead.
Zod, yeah.
Who Zod, realistically, is meant to be a recurring character. Like, again, the worst thing they did for Man of Steel was to kill Zod.
Yeah.
It's a betrayal of Superman, and it destroys the potential for a recurring villain. Wonder Woman, Ares, dead. Not a particularly interesting villain, but, was also a god, so probably shouldn't have gone down like a sack of shit.
Yeah, should have probably just gone, this isn't worth it.
Yeah. What comes next? Batman vs. Superman? I feel like Batman vs. Superman is next.
Yeah.
So, like, Doomsday, dead.
Would you say Doomsday is a villain?
Luthor.
Yeah, and obviously we all know how well Jesse did that.
Yeah, I mean, he's been completely overshadowed by John Cryer. He is... I was talking about him at work the other day with my team, and even the people that haven't watched the CW Arrowverse stuff, I show them a couple of clips of John Cryer, and they're like, that is Lex Luthor. That is what Lex Luthor should be.
I mean, even the Smallville Lex Luthor was better than bloody Jesse.
Yeah. And then just, chopping all his hair off at the end, just because that's what Lex Luthor should be.
I'll give you a hot take, a thing that people might disagree on. Kevin Spacey was a better Lex Luthor.
Oh, I mean, you're not wrong. I don't think you're allowed to say it anymore, but you're not wrong.
I didn't say he was good, I said he was better.
And then, so what you got? Justice League. You've got bloody, Siegfried? No. Steppenwolf, yeah. And then in the remake, you're going to have Darkseid.
Yeah. Is it just Darkseid, or is it Darkseid and Steppenwolf?
I think it's just Darkseid appears at some point in the middle, and then as, let's punch this guy into the sun quickly at the end. Probably. I mean, I've only seen trailers and synopsis, but either way, if they beat Darkseid inside of a film and then are able to go back to the status quo, they've done Darkseid wrong as well. Then you got Aquaman. I can't remember his bloody name. Ocean Master. He was crap. He was the worst part about that film.
I mean, he was just jealous, wasn't he? As far as I can remember.
Yep. I want you dead because jealousy.
At least it's something.
Yeah. And I gotta say, I was expecting the whole way through. I did get my expectations subverted, because I expected the advisor to be the bad guy.
I forgot about Aquaman. I quite liked Aquaman.
Yeah, no, I did too.
Because I think they went with, we're never going to be able to do this again. So we're not going to tease his suit. We're not going to tease his trident. He's going to get everything.
Yep.
He will be Aquaman by the end of this movie.
Yep.
Not he will be on the journey to be Aquaman, because he's the best Aquaman we've got.
Yeah.
But are we ever going to get a sequel?
Probably
Who
not.
knows?
I mean, I will say, like, Aquaman gets a bad rap. Aquaman in the, like, 80s and 90s was just comic fodder. Because they were like, oh, you can talk to fish. I mean, you look at the comics now, and they've expanded his powers to the point where, because obviously life evolved from the sea, there's a small part of every living creature's brain that he can, if not outright control, then influence. Like, he's like Wonder Woman tier strength plus the ability to subtly manipulate the minds of everyone and outright control sea life. But I mean, Jason Momoa is Aquaman.
Yeah, I mean, they get talent, they just
misuse it.
Don't use it right. Yeah, right. I'll drag this back to Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Because I had a few more things, mainly just questions that you probably can't answer because you didn't work on the film.
Yep.
But my first one was, why was Cheetah so desaturated? Why did she have no colour to her?
Yeah.
What was that about? We're going to make her black and white, basically. It made no sense to me.
Yeah, that really doesn't make... I didn't even think about that until you brought it up, and now I'm like, yeah, actually, that does make sense. That was a thing that happened. I don't know if it was to contrast with how shiny and golden Diana was meant to be.
But that's the whole point. She wants to be like Diana.
Yeah.
So she should be colourful like Diana.
I mean, do not get me on ranting about how stupid those wishes worked again. I trimmed that down a whole long way for that review. Those wishes annoy the hell out of me. It's difficult to do wishes right, but there is no telling me that those wishes weren't done wrong in this film.
Well, I mean, the whole mixing of the metaphors of you have to be truthful, so you can't wish for anything, because when you wish for something, that's not being truthful for yourself.
Yeah.
So kids, don't wish to have a better life and then try and make that wish come true. Just, stay where you are and be truthful.
Just accept that bad stuff happens. Never try and get over it.
No, you are where you are. You shouldn't wish for anything, good or bad, because that's not being truthful. Why wish for someone to be healthy? Why wish for someone to, be able to feed their kids? Nah. You're not being truthful. If you can't feed your kids, you need to stay in a state of not being able to feed your kids.
And more's the point, if you're in the middle of a race and an obvious shortcut appears before you after you've lost your horse, you must never take that shortcut.
Oh God, yes. Why? Right. This might also be a DC Warner Brother thing, because I'm pretty sure it's come up a few times. Is why does everything our heroes learn come back to something that they didn't learn but tried to learn when they were a kid?
Yeah.
Why did we have to flash back to her being a kid again? Why? I didn't need to see little baby Diana. I came to see Wonder Woman.
Yep.
So, put her in the suit.
I maintain that a better rendition would have been, admittedly it would have damaged the complexity of Maxwell Lord a little, but to have followed the Brother Eye storyline more closely, and then you could have gone back to Themyscira, because there would have been a massive battle.
Yeah, but, they didn't take our ideas.
No, and realistically, that entire sequence was actually just to show us the statue of old Wonder Woman.
Old Wonder Woman. The OG, man. The OG.
The OG, yeah. Which, again, that was my favourite part of the film, that reveal.
I mean, I shouldn't say this, because when we get into my my Batman stuff, it's quite obvious for anyone that knows the story I'm going with.
Okay.
But as soon as she said, I searched for her and all I could find was her armor, it's like, well, she's going to be, either in it or in the post-credit scene or in Wonder Woman 3 or something. It was like so slap around the face. This person will be here. Like, come on, guys, you could do it a little bit better.
Yeah.
There's some other things, like the car chase scene was just goofy. Even the score didn't get me pumped. At no point was I pumped for her to be kicking ass.
No.
Obviously the second wish for Barbara makes no sense. But I do have a question about this, because when I was watching it, so I knew going in that she had 2 wishes.
Yep.
And that was one of the problems with the movie.
Yep.
But when she wishes for it, just one thing. Why do some wishes come true in like a second, and some take a little bit of time?
Very good question. I mean, you'd think that if you were already reality warping something into existence, that any wish would be as trivial as any other, right?
Yeah, like that guy got his coffee straight away.
Yep. That guy got his nukes straight away.
Yeah, but Barbara had to slowly develop into being strong and like Diana.
Yeah, like logically, Diana's power should have gone poof, and then she should have been empowered, like Hercules in the 90s cartoon. It should have just been like bada bing, bada boom, power's gone.
And that was the other thing. Something is taken away from you. So why is her power taken away slowly?
Yeah.
That's not how it works. She should have immediately not had powers.
Because I can tell you now, that Irish fella, his freedom was taken away from him pretty sharpish.
Exactly. What was the other thing about the wishes? Oh, yeah. So she got a second wish. So when on the plane, she says she wants to be an apex predator.
Uh-huh.
But she doesn't become an apex predator then on the plane. He then starts doing his broadcast.
Yep.
Right? He said, I'll take that from you. I'll take that from you. And I'm pretty sure he says something like, I'll take that from you. I'll give that to her.
Mm-hmm.
So what is he? Is he giving something to Barbara to make her an apex predator?
I mean,
and
sounds
not actually
like
granted her a second wish.
Has he depowered the real cheater to empower?
That's the second. There might be a thing that explains why she got technically 2 wishes, because he actually just took something off someone and gave it to her. But how would he take something off a normal human being and make her a cheater?
Yeah.
So it still makes no sense. Even if what I heard was like right, it still makes no sense.
I mean, I will say, Wonder Woman, although I have recently started reading like solo Wonder Woman runs, Wonder Woman is not my forte, so take with a pinch of salt. But if I remember right, Barbara in the comics was literally cursed by something, cursed or empowered by an artifact to like become an apex predator. There's definitely no other cheater whose powers are being absorbed there. So I don't, even that as an argument, unless they're doing something really new and really different, just makes no sense.
It does.
Is that in terms of, I was going to say good points, but we trailed again.
We went to confusing points, and the only other thing that I wrote down, because I thought you would enjoy it, was when I saw the flying scene of her learning to fly.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it just has no impact. She's not even happy about it. Like she doesn't smile. I know that she's just lost Steve, but come on, you've learned to fly.
Yeah,
be happy. Like come on. I said while I was in front of the TV, while I was watching that scene, Man still did that better.
Yeah, it did.
And then I went and, because I wanted to make sure I was right, I went and watched that scene from Man of Steel, and it was incredibly better. He was so pleased as soon as he does obviously the big jumps, and then he does that big push and he starts flying, and he's like, oh my god, this is so great, and he smiles, and then he crashes back down to earth.
Yeah, because it was like jump, fall.
Yeah, and obviously he gets back up, he manipulates gravity, and then he pings off and flies, and he's just like, and you can feel the music in that scene as well was so triumphant. The Man of Steel one, I mean.
Yes,
yeah. The score was so triumphant, and when he finally gets it and he's like, yeah, I do this.
Yep. And it's the same with, I'm going to drag things very quickly back to Marvel, because it's the one that always comes to mind whenever you talk about like getting better progressively. Iron Man 1, like just him slowly but surely working on the armor over like a 20-minute period in the film, where it's like, oh, here's a problem, better fix that problem, here's another new version.
Yep.
And like, you could have done something like that with Wonder Woman, rather than the silly flashback to her running as a child. You could have flashed back to something in the 50s where she was practicing the invisibility thing, or was practicing flying, or anything.
Oh yeah, that was it as well. Nikki actually said this while we were watching it, when she was making the jet invisible.
Yeah.
Right? So invisibility also makes your jet not make any noise, apparently.
Yeah, it's weird that. Like, it completely gets around radar, which clearly Diana doesn't understand how radar works.
No.
Which is funny, because she didn't want to explain it to Steve.
I think what happened, the writers don't understand radar.
Yeah.
But they wanted an excuse for her to make a jet invisible.
Yeah. And the thing is, I have no problem with her having the invisible jet. That's not an issue. They literally could have been like, oh, I've been practicing this for years. Look, boof, done. There was no need to be like, oh yeah, I recently lost a cup. I've only done it on a cup and I've lost the cup.
They wanted to do that whole thing of that the person can't do it until they're in the situation
where they need to.
They do it or they die.
I can't fail because I have to win.
Yeah, and it just wasn't. They still could have taken off. Yeah, they would have had people, flying after them and chasing them, which probably would have been a better scene. But, the thing that came to my mind when I was thinking about that and going like, obviously this is what they were trying to go for. It's a dire situation.
Mm-hmm.
She's not been able to do it and boom, yeah, she can do it. Again, triumphant. What came to my mind was The Incredibles. When Dash and Violet are getting used to actually using their powers, and obviously she can't do the
force field over the whole
plane,
and she does it over just them.
Yeah, and then obviously Dash running on water as well.
Yep.
When he's just like, oh my god, like I could actually do this.
Oh, then that is a scene. I think that was the very first Cinema Wins video I watched, and just when he comments on just the sheer joy on from Dash when he realizes that he can run on water, it's like
yeah. Well, it's also when Violet jumps in front of Dash and stops the guy shooting at him, and he's like, "How are you doing this?" And she's like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Well, don't stop." And obviously he runs off and takes her with her, and it's just like he's just so happy, and there was none of that.
No.
They were trying to go for that extreme, but it was only you're taking off.
Again, I think the scene would have been better if let's not add in additional flashback. Even if she made the comment about the coffee cup, was like, I haven't found the coffee cup yet. And then, she tries once and it literally makes the cockpit invisible and you can see the rest of the plane. And she's like, uh-oh. And then, steadily making it bigger. Maybe it falters completely. And then just as heat-seeking missiles lock onto them or something, they branch off at the last second because it goes completely invisible. Fine with that. That would have been a wicked scene.
Exactly. Yes. They take off. They're being hunted. They're being chased. And that would actually then be, they're going to blow us up, or I make this invisible. It goes invisible. He veers off. Okay, they're not heat seeking because, that wouldn't work.
No, that's fair.
And, the missiles just go, and they're like, oh my God, so much better. How long did that take us to come up with?
I know. Why did they fly through fireworks? You're invisible.
Oh yeah, God, I forgot about that. We were sitting there wishing that a firework would just blow them up.
I mean, literally, not even blow them up, but hit them, jar them, and then be like, oh yeah, this was a dumb idea.
Yeah, they flew through this.
I hate that film. I truly hate that film.
Dude, obviously, I have no expertise to answer this question, and I mean, neither do you, but do you think that a guy from 70 years ago would be able to fly that jet?
No! I think, had they have put him in an antique, like something from World War I that could not have done the journey that they need to do, yes, he'd absolutely have picked it up. You put him in a World War II fighter, I'd argue he would have been able to do it. The technology leap between the two was not massive. But we are talking a fully digital environment in front of him.
Yeah.
With buttons, he has no clue what they do and definitely doesn't have time to read a manual. I do not accept this. I'm a pilot. I can do this.
And he just flicked the switches.
Yeah.
And it's like, boom, boom, boom. And he's like, fuel. Where's the fuel?
Yeah.
Okay, he would know that he needs to turn this on. But what was it? It's 70 years.
Yeah.
I just have no word. They just wanted him in a jet.
Yeah. Even if she already had the jet, admittedly you'd have lost something there, but nothing particularly big. But even if she already had the jet and offered for him to fly it, and she was more comfortable with old style controls as well, so it was a bit more old timey, and he was like, oh, this is very vintage, something like that.
Weren't they at the Smithsonian?
Yes.
As well?
Yes.
Obviously I don't know back in the 80s, but that's got a space section.
Yeah. I mean, I looked it up, and because I was convinced that maybe the narrative online of they're not kept fueled, there's no runway there. No, that's all true. It was true then and it's true now. There is no runway there. Obviously the stuff that's on display is not kept fueled, except for a minimal amount of fuel in the ones that are actually outside, because they need to to be able to move them, between outside and inside easily. But if you kept fuel in the tank just forever, the fuel tank could erode, because that's what happens with fuel tanks.
Yeah, wow.
I'm sorry, I hate it so much. I would watch Thor 2 on repeat rather than sit through Wonder Woman 2 again.
It was a disappointment, and I feel like if that was Wonder Woman 1, we would have gone, DC.
Yep.
But we had Wonder Woman 1, and we went, they're getting it. They're finally getting it, and then they're going to make that.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, Wonder Woman 1 came out before Captain Marvel, right?
Yeah.
So DC did a woman-led film before Marvel did, and much as I like Captain Marvel, but I concede that Wonder Woman is a better film than Captain Marvel. I don't understand how they can go from that success, see Marvel's success with theirs, and then do a sequel and it be truly awful. Like, make me look at Suicide Squad and go, it's not as bad as I thought it was.
God, I've got about Suicide Squad as well. This is why I don't think about these movies.
And I cannot stress enough. I assume we're mostly moving off of Wonder Woman now.
Yeah, we better.
I cannot stress enough that in terms of the comics, I am much more a DC fan than I am a Marvel fan. There are specific Marvel comics that I will read religiously. I will always read whatever the current Avengers run is, because it's got the biggest links to whatever happens to be going on in the Marvel universe at the time. And I will always read whatever the current Spider-Man run is, because I'm a Spider-Man kid through and through. And the current Amazing Spider-Man run is amazing. But aside from that, in terms of DC, I read basically everything off of their main slate, because it's just all genuinely good most of the time. And I will never read comments on the comics issues, because people have the worst takes when it comes to comics. They'll be like, you do a comic where Wonder Woman manages to get to a thing before Superman does, and it's like, oh, the women are taking over. Shut up, you have trash opinions. Or, the biggest argument I've seen with, I don't know if you saw my Future State video. One of the big things that keeps getting pulled up about Future State Batman is that Tim Fox is black and Batman shouldn't be black. And that's ridiculous. If you want to make that argument, Batman is Bruce Wayne, and Batman should never be anyone that isn't Bruce Wayne. Technically, Batman isn't a legacy hero.
Yeah, but DC have that. They have this weird, thing with, obviously the New 52 and other reboot, where they just go, oh, these people that have inhabited being the Flash, being Green Lantern. Yeah, we're gonna go back to other ones that we like better. And it's just but you've got other, you've got 29 Flashes. Why is Barry Allen the only Flash you think everyone wants to hear stories about?
And they've finally gone on, they've finally gone back on that in the current Infinite Frontier comic run. Barry, spoilers, Barry has basically moved on. He's now working with Justice Incarnate, which is President Superman. Basically it's Black Superman who looks oddly like Obama. But they're working on mapping out the new multiverse after the latest crisis. And Barry Allen has said, I'll help. I'll move my family to this satellite and I'll help you do that. And has said to Wally, look, you stood in for me after Crisis on Infinite Earths when I disappeared for a decade. Take it. The mantle's yours. It's as good as yours. And he's taken over again. He's no longer Kid Flash again. And I have no issue with legacy heroes. I like both Connor Kent and Jonathan Kent as Superman legacies, and arguably Kara as Supergirl as well is technically a Superman legacy character. All the Robins I love, for different reasons, but I love all the Robins, and the fact that eventually there's gonna have to be someone who takes on the Batman mantle. I don't necessarily think it should be someone from the Fox family, because there's fully a push at the moment with Future State. You've got Tim Fox or Jace Fox or whatever he's going by today as Future State Batman. Then you've got Future State Batgirl, which is Tiffany Fox, and then you've got Luke at some point is going back to being Batwing, which he retired from like a year ago in the comics, but will go back to being Batwing. So you're going to have the Fox family basically replacing the Wayne adoptees as the Bat family, and I don't like that. There's no need to replace them wholesale.
That's the thing. I know a lot of. I'm definitely more Marvel than I am DC.
Yeah.
I don't read a lot of comics, but I grew up watching Spider-Man cartoon,
Same.
the X-Men cartoon. Those two are very, very fond in my memories.
Days of Future Past.
Yeah. And then, obviously, you know, the movie industry, Marvel is just far superior.
Yes, 100%.
Apart from, obviously, you know, you've got the exceptions. You've got the Dark Knight trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back in the day, you had the Superman films of Christopher Reeve.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they did rule the way, but, you know, not anymore. But I can name lots of different Flashes and, you know, Green Lanterns and things. But Batman is Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if anyone has ever taken the mantle of Batman apart from Bruce Wayne.
The only, obviously not including the current run with Tim Fox, but aside from stand-ins, so in the comics, throughout what would essentially be the timeline of The Dark Knight Rises, you know when Bruce gets his back broken?
Yeah. Didn't, like, Azrael take on,
yes,
like, stand in for him for a bit? That's the only one I know, and
so,
I know it's, yeah.
Sorry. So in that stretch of time, so you have Azrael takes over, and then Bruce basically has to hurry back because Azrael is a psychopath.
Yeah.
And Bruce has to beat the crap out of him and take his mantle back. And eventually, like, Jean-Paul gets better and becomes part of the Bat family as Azrael, like, around. There's a few times where Bruce goes missing and, like, Dick will step in. It's non-canon now because it got rebooted out of existence, but there's a Battle for the Cowl story where Batman gets sent back in time by Darkseid's Omega Beams. Basically, you've just had, so about 3 months earlier, he adopted Damian Wayne. That's the sort of time frame we're looking at. So you've got, I was going to say Tim Fox, but it's not Tim Fox. Tim Drake, Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Damian Wayne, and Azrael fighting for the right to be Batman. And after this battle royale, the last one standing is Dick, and Dick becomes Batman until Bruce gets back, as he should, because he's the original Robin at the end of the day. The only contender is Damian because he is a blood relative.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's Dick all the way. That's going to get clipped one day. But he doesn't get along with Tim Drake, so he replaces Tim Drake as Robin and brings in Damian. So he is the first Batman to Damian Wayne's Robin. If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so you have people stand in for a time. There's even a comic book run from about 5 years ago where Jim Gordon becomes Batman for a little bit. He's not a very good Batman. He's essentially in a the Batman versus Superman suit. He's basically in one of those.
All right.
He never finds out who Batman was, just that there is a government-sponsored, holy crap, we need a stand-in Batman because Batman's gone missing. And for some absurd reason, like, Dick doesn't just step back into the cowl. Or any of the other Bat family, like, it's Jim Gordon. Honestly, it was a bit of a silly storyline anyway, because, like, Bruce and the Joker lose their memories, eventually get them back, and when they do, the Joker appears to die for a while, but as ever with the Joker, comes back. Bruce gets his cowl back, yada, 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 yada. But
that's so insane.
It's mental. Like, as I say, DC do better, but DC do some wacky crap.
Yeah.
But the only like true blue successor to Batman that has ever stuck is Terry McGinnis's Batman Beyond. And that is like, depending, obviously there's a sliding timescale to consider, but about 40 years in the future, Bruce retires because his body's a wreck. Like, you know, he's like 60 years old at this point and he cannot do it anymore. So he retires. Gotham deals with just massive crime waves for about a decade. And then Terry McGinnis steps in one day when his dad is killed. And there's a post-series explanation that basically Amanda Waller Waller saw that Bruce was getting old and made a point to steal some of his genetic material from a crime scene and cloned him.
I mean, we said that DC have villains with bad childhood. So do their heroes.
Oh yeah, big time. Like that, it fully like there's a. To be honest, it's Marvel as well, but to a lesser degree.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you're in superhero media or you're in like manga or anime media, your protagonist cannot have two living and healthy parents.
No, because then you'd be a well-adjusted human being.
Yeah.
Everyone with two parents comes out perfect.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I find myself to be a perfectly well-adjusted person, mate.
Exactly. So, unfortunately, you'll never put the suit on.
No. That's, I mean, probably for the best, really. I'm not the most athletically minded person on the planet.
Oh, God. I'd see the bat signal. I'd just be like, oh, I've just started watching this.
I've just run a bath. Come on.
Can't do this, guys. Right. Well, as we have sidestepped into Batman.
Yes.
I have a pitch for you for my Batman movie.
Yep.
You obviously talked about a reboot.
Yep.
But I think, given a little bit, it takes an aspect they teased and a very well-known storyline, which you'll get from the first sentence.
I know what you're going to do already. You tell me, and I'll tell you if I guessed.
Exactly. So it could be, integrated into what they already have. They don't really seem to want to completely reboot it, but obviously mine takes it a bit further than the movies have.
Yep.
Nowhere near the comics, obviously. But this is my pitch. There are some bits that I reread and went, I'm not sure about that. And there's a few different options. I've literally every time I look at it, I'm like, should I do that? It's a bit obvious. But what it's a superhero movie. Does it have to be not obvious?
No, of course not.
It's like the thing I thought of when I wrote this quickly the other day was everyone knew who the Winter Soldier was.
Yeah. All right, it's Red Hood. I already thought it was, but it's Red Hood.
Did anyone care? No, still a great movie.
Yep, exactly.
So we start with a scene where basically Batman is desperately trying to save Jason from being killed. He's properly frantic, trying to get to him, and obviously it doesn't work. Jason is killed. You could flip it and have someone else kill him, but I'm of the mind, right, that the Joker should be in every single Batman film.
Ooh.
Even if he's just in the background, you don't actually see him, he's still pulling strings.
Oh, for instance, sorry to interrupt, but in Batman Begins, where it ends with the Joker's calling card.
Yeah.
He should always be involved somehow.
He should be in there somewhere. The things that I've gone with Death in the Family.
Yeah.
And the other thing I love is the Arkham game. So the things that I wanted to see, which I've put in here, are Arkham, Batman being a detective, and sneaky fighting, taking down enemies without them noticing you. Right. So we start with him trying to save Jason. It doesn't work. He gets killed. Batman then wakes up from that nightmare, and it's a year, 3 years, 5 years in the future.
Yep.
However long you want to set it. How long has he been dwelling on this? Because since that point, he has retired from being Batman. He's not put the cowl or the cape on since. Obviously, he wakes up, he's in his bedroom. You have some kind of conversation with Alfred. Him saying you could be out there. And Bruce saying, no. The city is safer without me. They've got others. And then we flip to Nightwing being the main hero within Gotham at this point.
I mean, you've sold it to me there.
Straight away, I've introduced another character. Oh, that was the other thing as well, is I like movies where you are dropped into a world that is already happening.
Yeah, you've not got a precipitating event. You're starting at chapter 3. Sort of
yeah,
thing.
Nightwing. Dick is Nightwing, right? And he has been for a very long time, and he is just doing what he does.
Yeah, which I mean that makes sense, because if you're going to do a post Jason Todd death story, Dick is already Nightwing. End of story. Because he's Nightwing 6 months before Jason becomes Robin. So yeah, for sure.
Exactly. So he's out there. I would do a classic bank robbery scene. He has to go in, fight people, just really cool. Like we saw the snippet of Batman fight in is it BVS?
Yep.
Yeah, he's been taught by Bruce, so he fights like him. He uses gadgets, all the cool stuff, right? Obviously foils the bank robbery, but oh no, it's a trap, and he gets kidnapped.
Ooh.
This point, at this point, I introduced Barbara. She is like a police chief at this point.
Okay.
She calls probably Alfred, because Batman, Bruce isn't talking to people at this point.
He screens her calls.
Yeah. She calls Alfred, tells him that Dick's been taken. They're not sure by who. They're not sure what's going on. Obviously, Alfred tells Batman this, and he just, he loses it. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't have another one die." This is the thing that pushes him back into the suit.
Yep.
And at this point is then the kind of clue finding, being an actual detective.
Yep.
Trying to find Dick. He's intimidating people, but he's also finding clues, scanning areas, getting fingerprints, all that good stuff. He goes to the bank, and finds, I found this fingerprint, ran it through the system, it's this person. He then goes, intimidates that person, gets some information out of them, and blah 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 blah. And it eventually leads him to this place, this warehouse or something, where he thinks Dick is being held. But obviously he goes in, he's really sneaky, he takes people out, no one even realizes he's there, and you have this really cool stealth Batman going in. He's trying to remember how to do it, so he's a bit rusty.
Steps on a creaky floorboard.
Yeah, there might be a bit where he's trying to be sneaky, and obviously something happens and he's just like, shit, has to take the guy out.
Hip cracks or something.
Yeah. Something like that. But yeah, he takes everyone out. He finds Dick. He's safe. He's relieved. And at that point, Dick tells him that Jason is still alive. He's like overheard some guards or something talking, which obviously we're led to believe was a mistake. But,
yeah.
We know that this was planned.
But again, Jason was trained by Bruce as well.
Yeah. This is planned. Obviously, Dick tells Bruce that Jason's alive, and he's just like, what the hell, and kind of can't deal with it. He's like, this must be the Joker. It must be the Joker. And Dick's like, how can it be the Joker? He's locked up in Arkham. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I have to find the Joker. If I find the Joker, I'll find Jason. He tells Dick to go get Barbara, go talk to Barbara, so to get him out of the way a little bit. Because he knows that he might not be able to control himself, so he doesn't want Dick coming with him. He's like, no, I need you to go away. So that happens, and obviously then Batman gets to Arkham, and it is not right. Like, there's no guards, there's no one to greet him. He's like, what the hell's going on here? He's not checked in on Arkham for a very long time, obviously.
Oh yeah, of course, because he's been retired. I goofed on that point for a second there.
Where have I got to? Turns up at Arkham. And obviously at this point I would then have a call. Obviously he's kind of trying to work out what's going on. He falls into some kind of trap that the Joker has laid for him. He gets gassed with something, and then I'd have a cool, like, trippy horror scene where the thing I thought of was like Spider-Man.
The Mysterio
Far From
scene.
Home with Mysterio, but obviously a lot darker.
Yep.
Because it's Batman, and it's the Joker. So like, he's teasing him. Bruce has been drugged, so he's kind of out of it, and he's trying to fight, blah blah. And then obviously at kind of some point we get the reveal that Jason is actually working with the Joker. He's set this trap for Bruce. He knew that obviously if he kidnapped Dick, and he would get him out, because obviously being Batman, his home, even though he's retired, his home is still impregnable.
Yeah.
He couldn't just go into Wayne Manor and get him. So he devised this to try and lure him out. And obviously it works. At this point, obviously you could go a few ways.
Yep.
Because you could have Batman succeed in kind of stopping Jason and the Joker, and then by the end of the movie they're locked back up in Arkham, and obviously we're getting Arkham back to being right again.
Yep.
Or you could have him not succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And have Jason get away. Maybe Jason gets away, but he manages to stop Joker and capture the Joker. But obviously the Joker doesn't care about that.
Yeah.
He can meddle wherever he is. So and obviously then you'd have I'm not sure if you would, because I don't want to do too many characters in one movie.
Yes. Yeah.
So my first thing was that you would have the final battle where Dick shows up, and maybe Barbara also shows up as Batgirl as well.
Yeah.
And obviously they have fight between them three and Jason's gang, the Joker's gang, and obviously them, and obviously you'd have a big battle at the end.
Yeah, because I'd definitely argue that in a straight up fight, if you've got a post-retirement Batman, I reckon Jason on his own could probably be post-retirement Batman and post I have a 9-to-5 job Barbara Gordon. I feel like Dick would be the danger there.
Yeah, but you could leave it on high, you could leave it on big fight, you could leave it on a downer. They get there too late, and obviously they Joker and Jason escape, and then Dick and Barbara get there too late to help. There's a couple of ways you can do it. It kind of all depends if you want it to be enclosed or you want to tease a future sequel to it.
Yeah.
But there's lots of ways. What did I think I wrote? I think I changed it 3 times. Yeah, because originally I had obviously it revealed that Jason's alive, working with the Joker. Obviously this gets him because he's held this guilt in for so long.
Yeah.
He kind of takes that guilt and changes it into anger.
Yeah.
And he starts getting super angry, and he's just oh my god, I'm gonna take you down. And obviously at that point you could have him actually succeed. I mean, they could break out of Arkham in the sequel.
Yeah.
And then I just had Barbara and Dick show up to kind of round up everything.
Yeah.
Because obviously they've destroyed Arkham, so everyone is escaping and causing mischief. But then I thought maybe do it a bit darker and actually have Batman not succeed. And then you carry that on into the sequel where he's decided that I am gonna start being Batman again.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he get another Robin, but he can't kind of do it the same.
Yeah.
Because he's had this mistrust and blah blah blah. Because Tim would be next, right?
I was going to say, yeah, introduce Tim Drake, because the part of Tim Drake's backstory is that he discovers off his own back Dick and Bruce's identities, and then approaches Dick post Jason's death, and you need to go back to Batman because he needs you. And Dick's like, who the hell are you, kid?
Well, that'd be great then, because he would not want to have he wouldn't want to have a sidekick.
Yeah.
But Tim would force it upon him.
Yeah.
And he would learn to try and trust again. But that's like I say, there's a couple of ways you can end it depending on how dark you want to get.
Mm-hmm.
But I've introduced a few characters. I've done things that you've never. I think we've seen Arkham in other movies, but
briefly.
Not really. Being a detective, he's never been a detective.
No, they've never played into the detective role in a Batman film.
He's never had gadgets until Batfleck.
Yeah.
He never had it. Well, obviously he had gadgets in the 80s, but not like the cowl. That was nothing.
Yeah.
He would never scan an area for stuff. And,
no, it was always just a mask.
Analyze it. Yeah. So having that, and obviously then you've got kind of a normal fight with Nightwing at the start. You've then got stealth in the middle, and then to end it, you've got kind of horror messing with his mind, and then obviously straight after that you can then have a final actual normal fight that people want to see.
Yeah. I like that. I like the entire idea actually, because obviously you've seen the animated rendition of Death in the Family or Under the Red Hood, whichever.
Yeah.
I always liked the confrontation between the Joker and Jason, but I did always kind of wonder, like, if his anger is so misplaced, because you've got to remember, like, Lazarus Pit and everything, you come back broken. Yeah. What is to stop him being teamed up with the Joker? I mean, I absolutely, when you were like, and they confront each other, yada yada, I fully had in my head, like, and then Jason just raises the shotgun, holds it to the right, and blows the Joker's face off.
Yeah, I couldn't do it exactly the same, because obviously there has to be, like, obviously everyone, from the first moment, anyone that knows this story knows what's coming.
Yeah.
So I thought teaming them up would be a good thing, and like you can kind of continue that in the sequels where, you know, maybe they're not properly teamed up, but, you know, they will help each other where they can, basically only to mess with Bruce.
Yeah.
Like, if they can help each other mess with him, they'll do it. And obviously this is Batman, so no one ever dies. Everyone only goes into Arkham.
Yep, Arkham, or into a coma.
Yeah. Like, all the sequels will have anything, because obviously the trip through Arkham can be Easter egg goldmine.
Oh yeah,
like
almost like they did with because they did it in Arrow, where because they were going to introduce Harley Quinn, but then they couldn't get the rights to her for the Suicide Squad bit of the season. But like, you could literally have like, just you see their names on the doors, because they did that in not to Arrowverse it up or anything, but in when Batwoman was introduced in Elseworlds, they literally just went through Arkham, and it was like, oh, here's where all the supervillain shit is stored, and like you can sit, like, it's a slew of Easter eggs. Oh, and here's all of these doors going into their cells.
Yeah, I don't mind that. You tease stuff. You give me Easter eggs. I'm happy with that.
Me too. Like a lot of people seem to be really disparaging towards just casual Easter eggs. Like, it's part of what we're there for, man.
Yeah.
Because you can't fit it all into a film or a TV show, so you've just got to imply that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, just something in background to be like, we know about this character. Like, we might use him, we might not.
Yeah, something silly like, even if you don't have him use them, there's a sword that Jason has in the comics. Basically, not to get too far into it, because he's got a surprisingly deep backstory between, like, death and coming back as the Red Hood. But he basically gets trained by the League of Assassins, and then he gets trained by, I think it's the All Cast, who are basically, like, there's a magical side to it, but he has swords that can only kill things that are, I think it's demonic or just pure evil. So, you know, you could even have, like, he's got this sword at his hip that he never draws, and like, there's a bunch of times where he's in close combat and could draw it, but for some reason he never uses it in this fight, sort of thing. But maybe he does threaten the Joker with it.
Well, one of the things that I thought of to, again, change it up, was that he never actually died.
Yeah. Oh, right. It's like, you know, the Joker fakes his death, sort of thing.
Yeah. In that case, obviously, I would have it not set too far in the future.
Yeah, like maybe you know, he quote unquote died at 14 and comes back at 16, or, you know, 16 and 18.
So he's had a few years to, you know, come up with a plan, and, you know, and we will not explain it at all in this movie.
Yeah.
He could have died, and he could have come back, or he could have just not died. And why he's upset with Bruce, no, we're not going to touch on it.
No.
Not going to touch on it. He's you know, there'll be things said, there'll be things, you know, thrown in there, you know, because obviously in the last bit where Bruce finds out that he's still alive, there will be, you know, what the hell, where have you been, what's happened, you know, and he can throw out some things being like, you know, you were a bad mentor.
Yep.
You know, you abused me, kind of like Dick in the Titans.
Yeah.
Where he's like, you know, pissed off with Bruce because, you know, he took him as a kid, turned him into a weapon. Just, you know, Jason has kind of flipped, and obviously you've then got, well, he's not just angry, he's being manipulated by the Joker.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you're going to get your story concept swiped from underneath you, because from the sounds of it, Jason Todd in the Dick Grayson show is coming back as Red Hood this season, which, you know, I just don't feel like he deserves to come back as Red Hood. He's not really had anything. They had the opportunity to kill him, and they whiffed it.
Yeah, it was a bit, obviously Jason is supposed to be annoying.
Yeah, but he's just, in Titans, I'm sorry, he is just a brat.
Yeah, like you feel like Dick's got reason for doing what he's doing, reasons why he resents Batman, and then you've just got Jason just...
I get to beat people half to death, yay!
Yeah.
And the thing, they should focus more on that, because the reason that Jason is the way he is that he is an angry little bastard of a child. And and because Bruce trained Dick, who was not an angry little bastard of a child, he's using the same training methods with the both of them. And whereas Dick went from, I've lost my pet, Dick Grayson is the good Batman. I don't mean that in the sense that, he's the best version of Batman, but he's the most put together person, because the two of them basically have the same origin story. It's just that Dick has chosen to look out towards the light, whereas Bruce has stuck in the same place for, depending on your continuity, 25 years. Whereas Jason also has not so much of a tragic backstory, but a crappy upbringing. And
surprise.
Yeah, I know, right? And then when Bruce takes him in, he uses the same training methods he used with the uniquely good Dick Grayson, and it doesn't work out the same. All it does is it further influences his negative emotional state. And one of the things with not to harp too much on about the comics, but one thing that Batman does in what world is it? It's one of their Elseworlds things. Oh, it's do I need to give much of an explanation for Earth 3 in the comics?
Yes.
Right, so Earth 3, super duper cliff notes, is the crime syndicate universe. So everyone exists, but morality is flipped. It's not quite that, but effectively all good guys are bad guys, all bad guys are good guys.
Yeah.
And Owlman says to Bruce, we can fix everything. We destroy all worlds except for my world, and then the multiverse will be fine. And Bruce very briefly considers it, and then asks, what's Dick Grayson up to in this world? And Owlman says, who? At which point, Bruce presses the button and destroys Earth 3. Because in his view, if Dick Grayson doesn't exist, the world cannot be on the right path.
That's cool.
Yeah. There's a lot of hints throughout the shows, throughout the comics, throughout the animated stuff. A lot of writers see that whether he says it or not, Bruce considers Dick to be his successor.
Yeah, and he, should be.
And we've gone on for a long time. But I wanted very briefly to touch on the sort of franchise that I'd go with for the Bat family.
Yeah.
So I'd go a little more traditional. I would do a reboot first. I do, like I said in the video, I do a Batman solo film that introduces Dick but doesn't make him Robin. Then you'd have the Batman and Robin film that introduces Barbara but has her a bit separate. Then I'd probably actually do a Barbara spin-off film, like a Batgirl film with Bruce and Dick as ancillary characters, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But then you're building up to the equivalent of the end of Phase 1 Avengers film for this would be Death in the Family. I want the Joker to be... I'm using the Avengers as a comparison because the Bat family is massive when all's said and done. But so Death in the Family is you've got, by that point, you've got Bruce, Dick, Jean-Paul, Barbara, and Jason. So you got a cast of 5. They're not all necessarily going to be in every film, but you kill off Jason. And everyone knows you're going to kill off Jason, but the point is you're not then going straight into a Red Hood film because there's there's time to get through everything else. And then the next quote unquote Avengers style film would be Killing Joke, where again you've built up and it's this recurring theme of every time they do better. Gotham's getting nicer. The shots of Gotham are getting nicer throughout every iteration of each film, and then at the start of the next phase, for want of a better word, whatever the Joker's done has caused everything to get grimier again. Gotham gets better, and then the Joker screws it all up, and then it builds up and up and up and up, and then you got the Killing Joke. So you're starting what would be Phase 3 with Barbara paralysed, Jason dead still because no Red Hood yet, and then you're moving on to Tim Drake gets introduced, Damian turns up. Again, it depends what your time skips are between films, how long a time these films are going over as to how quickly you introduce Damian, because in my ideal world, in film 1 would be be where Damian is conceived. So you got to be 10 years down the line before you introduce Damian into the films. And I think part of the problem with doing a long-term Bat Family story is that you cannot guarantee that there isn't going to be studio interference to be like, that last film, that one film didn't do so great. Let's reboot the entire franchise.
Yeah, they don't want to kind of stick with it.
No, and the thing is, like, you could have because obviously they're doing a Gotham PD series, which isn't Gotham but is a separate Gotham series. But like something like that, you could do all of the TV tie-ins and you can do all of the extended film universe thing. And I'm just talking about Gotham and the Bat Family at this point, or Gotham and Bloodhaven, or adjoining cities, so that everyone has their own little area that they're in. But by the time you're like, less again using the phases analogy, by the time you're at the end game point, so the end of phase 3, like you've got a cast of like 25-30 characters and like this expansive franchise that you can do whatever the hell you want with, and you can tell the original stories, because that's the thing that with like that's what Batman Begins did really well, is that it told a different take on the League of Assassins, and it did really well as a result. And I mean, The Dark Knight was just the best Joker story ever told, or never told in the comics. But
agreed.
There's so many stories that you can semi-adapt. Like, you can take the best bits of them, and the stuff that just didn't fly or wasn't well received, adapt it. Like, modify it how you see fit. One scene I desperately want to see in live action, and they sort of played with it in Titans, was, because obviously in the Deathstroke Nightwing fight at the end of season 2, like, he beats the crap out of Deathstroke with his Eskrima sticks, after having previously just been floored immediately. And they've taken that from his original rivalry with Two-Face. So the whole idea in his early days is that him and Bats have been getting on pretty well. They've run into the Joker, and the Joker terrifies him, but the Joker hasn't really taken an interest in Dick. But you then have Two-Face, who, rather than focusing on Batman, is like, there's a child here. I'm gonna kill the child, because that's gonna throw Batman off his game. So he beats the crap out of Dick, who is fully not prepared for this. Like, he's not prepared for someone that comes at a child with killing intent. And he then suffers from PTSD for months. But he is, all the while, he's training hard. And the next time he encounters Two-Face, he whips out his Eskrima sticks and he beats the hell out of him, like almost beats him to death. And then he puts his Eskrima sticks away and he's like, we got one over here, Bats. And like off they ship him to Arkham. And like that's a mini contained arc, but it's something I'd love to see. Like, can you tell me that it wouldn't be entertaining to see what at that point would be like a 14-year-old child, like, backflipping over this terrifying looking gangster and just like smacking his pressure points with these Eskrima sticks?
Yeah, I think that's why they always age up the Robin in the movies. Because he does take children.
He does. But if that's the kind of story you want to tell, if you want to argue that Jason Todd was, effectively abused, then you gotta do it younger. You can't just be like, oh yeah, I took him in when he was 18. Well then, like, Bruce has no responsibility towards the person he became. I don't necessarily want him, it depends which continuity you're following, but I don't want a 10-year-old Dick Grayson out there fighting. That's absurd. Like, no one would argue that isn't child soldiers. There's a running thing in some of the Rebirth comics where Jim Gordon is like, dude, you gotta stop like bringing kids into your war, and it's just generally brushed off as like an absurdity that why would you have a problem with this? But like in anything close to the real world, it doesn't matter how much of a hero Batman is appearing to be to the public. If it's obvious that he's going out fighting crime with a small child by his side, like, the GCPD are going to do absolutely everything in their power to arrest this man. Like, they want to get that kid away from Batman for sure. So I agree agree, you've got to age them up somewhat, but I feel like, 14, 16, like 15 is probably a good age to start them at, because you're stronger, aren't you? You've gone through your puberty and everything. Like you're not throwing what is essentially a small child with no ability to defend themselves whatsoever. And yeah, I mean, you got to play with it a bit. I mean, the point is like Stephanie Brown. If you introduce her, she's so spoiler. She as her name, not me. I'm about to spoiler a thing. So Stephanie Brown as spoiler starts out when she is 14. But there was a controversy because around the same time they did Battle for the Cow, there was a storyline where she has gotten pregnant with her boyfriend, and at the age of 15 she gives birth to a child and gives it up for adoption because obviously her life does not suit bringing up a child. And also comics, the comic book authority would never have allowed for a 15-year-old hero that's supposed to be looked up to have a child underage. But if you ever wanted to do that storyline with Tim Drake like stepping in to look after her sort of thing, it kind of has to be an underage story or it doesn't work. So I think 14, 15, like that sort of age is going to be what you need to aim for.
What villain would you use? Like early-ish movies like Batman solo movie and the couple after that.
Right, so in the film that you introduced Robin, I want Two-Face. No question I want Two-Face. For the very first film, I absolutely don't want League of Assassins because early on the League of Assassins should be, if not an ally, then a neutral party. I'd edge more towards something like let's do a modern interpretation on Mr. Freeze or Poison Ivy, because the point is like if you do Poison Ivy, you've got a villain with a mindset that modern people can get behind, and it's not until she starts killing people that a problem arises, or the Riddler. If the Riddler's done well, the Riddler can be really. Do you notice I'm taking the Batman villains from like the earlier films that were done horrifically? I mean, the point is you could bring in bringing Catwoman early is good as well, but if you bring Catwoman in, she should never be a primary villain. She could be working for the villain, but I always want the possibility to push her towards neutrality to an ally later on.
I like it when there's there is that I'm kind of just doing a job. I'm just working. It's a job, and then if Bats can serve me better, I'm gonna go work for him, or I'm gonna go tell him something so he can go and stop something. To have that, Catwoman's definitely one of those that she can just flip.
Yes, and the point is can if she's a character that's garnered interest, you can do her team ups with like Harley and like Poison Ivy. Like you can do, it's not like Birds of Prey, like Gotham City Sirens. Like you can do your bad girl led villain films, or you can make them not quite villains. Maybe they are similar to the Birds of Prey film. Maybe they're working against Black Mask or the Joker or someone worse than themselves or the people that are normally fought. I wouldn't want to focus on like the Falcone crime family or anything like that. If they appear, they would be like side villains, like the people hired by the villains that really matter, or the people hiring the villains that really matter. But I would want to push on the detective angle, and for that, the Riddler is probably a good shout because there's a lot of possibility there.
Yeah, I mean, in my first thought of my movie, I did think like he would be there would be clues given to him intentionally, to kind of lead him down a path, and I thought it's too Riddlerish if I'm not going to use him. But that was my first thought. Like he would be a detective, but he would be getting these clues, and like the clues would be like really personal, and he'd be like, who knows this about me?
Like
what the hell?
Who knows this, and how do I stop them doing anything worse?
But I cut that bit and I just went with, well, he's just gonna find, he's just gonna go from, find a clue in the bank and then follow it. But yeah, I really like the idea. Getting a tiny bit off topic, but still Bats. The thing that kind of annoyed me in the Arkham games is that the Riddler is always just the collection.
Like the collectibles side quest.
Yeah, he's just the collectible kind of thing. He's not. They didn't really use him as a proper villain. It's just go and collect vibe. Go and figure out these like 50 riddles around the city. Like, yeah, but he could be the main person leading me somewhere.
And I think the thing is, like, don't make him hokey. But even Gotham managed to turn him into comic relief. But obviously don't get Jim Carrey to play him. But he can be quirky, but just don't make the quirk all he is. Like, don't make him in some recent comic runs, they've made him like really terrible at riddles, like the sort of riddles that Batman points out that a child would be able to get to the bottom of in no time flat.
My favourite, I don't know if it's from Batman the movie or the series, the 60s, is like something along the lines of, what sits in a tree is brown and is dangerous. It's like a sparrow with a machine gun.
I mean, the point is, either you've got to make him just like his riddles are impossible because he is mental, or you have to make them serious riddles that the audience isn't going to solve before Batman does. Like the old I'm a treasure chest without hinges and I've got a golden surprise inside. Like, could it be? Are you an egg? Don't be doing that sort of nonsense.
And don't make him the Joker.
No, and that's the point. He's not the Joker. He wants to hold people to ransom for his stupid riddles. They did that really wrong in I can't remember what the name of the villain was. There's like a chess master villain who has been secretly running the Gotham Underground, including the Joker, for years, and all of these plans come to fruition. And like the Riddler's plan is to just have these absurdly large walls all over the city, and to walk anywhere you need to answer his riddles. And it's like that's not, you've missed the point. Come on. I mean, that's the thing. I feel like any kind of long-term series is fine as long as you keep the production team consistent. And I'm not saying you need to have the same director, same writer, same producer, like everything exactly the same the whole way through. But you can't be changing writers every single film. You can't be changing directors every single film. And if you change like one thing, try not to also change the other. And by the same token, if it goes on for a long time, just don't be afraid of recasts. As long as they're similar enough, you can swap out an actor and it's not a huge problem. But like you can't just suddenly be like, oh yeah, Batman's gone. Like Bruce is just gone forever. Now, if whatever actor you get to play Batman can't be there for one film because of illness, prior commitments, whatever, then there's your opportunity to do Battle for the Cow.
Or just do a different movie with the other 20 characters.
With the other 20 characters that you've built up over the course of like a decade. Yeah, and this is the crux of the matter, isn't it? Don't rush it. Like, don't be like, oh, we need to start with like you could start with Death in the Family for sure, but like don't start with The Killing Joke and don't start with No Man's Land. There's no emotional weight if you have Bane kill Alfred in the first film, sort of thing. Like we don't feel for Damian. So in the comic you have Damian. So in No Man's Land, Bane kicks everyone out of Gotham, like all the heroes out of Gotham, takes control. He's like, if one of you comes in, I've got Alfred and I will kill him. And they all stay away and like try and work out covert ways of doing things. And Damian is convinced that he can get in and he can assassinate Bane before it's a problem. And he gets in, and the person that beats him isn't Bane, but it's Flashpoint Thomas Wayne. Yeah, like Flashpoint Thomas Wayne is, for reasons that still haven't been properly explained, was working for Bane, and he curb stomps Damian, like grabs him midair, slams him into the ground, just stomps on his head. Like Damian gets beaten, and then he gets tied to a chair. Bane wakes him up and snaps Alfred's head in front of him. That has emotional weight, but that has emotional weight because I've been following Damian in the comics for a decade. But if you do that as film one, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
In the same way that you can't do Batman versus Superman as your second film and empathise with Bruce Wayne when you followed Superman in the first film.
And, when his plan is stupid.
Yes.
I get the whole, you make a god bleed thing. They literally did it in Iron Man 2.
Yes.
And, it was terrible then, and it is still terrible.
Yep. It's not a good motivation. And it's not a good motivation for someone who's meant to be a hero either.
No. Well, that's the thing. They've made Batman a hero for so long.
Yeah.
That you can't just flip it. What I would do, like, obviously DC want an MCU type universe.
Yeah.
They want those big bucks, but they don't want to put in the work because they're so far behind.
Yeah.
I would just go back to making good trilogies.
Yeah.
Just do a trilogy, do another trilogy, and then go, we're going to combine these two.
Yep.
And we're going to now do a movie where you get all the people from that trilogy and all the people from that trilogy. And then it's not here's our universe, because I think that's where people have a problem.
Yeah.
Is that from day one, it's a universe, and like some, not us, because obviously take my money. Like,
yeah.
But some people get put off by that because it's like, well, now, to understand that movie, I need to understand the last 20 movies.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you just make a good movie with ideas and things to make a sequel, then make that a trilogy.
Yeah.
And then go, here's the thing. And the people that want to see it will see it. And the people that don't will probably go back and watch them.
Yeah.
Like,
this is, I don't get the Warner Brothers mentality for wanting to skip the hard work, because it's not like Marvel got to skip the hard work. Look at the 90s with the 90s and the early 2000s with just terrible film after terrible film.
Oh, hey, come on. Early 2000s.
I mean, so Jade had never seen Blade, so we watched over the course of a weekend, we watched the entire Blade trilogy. And
are you about to tell me?
No. So I like them, they're great, but they are so 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Like Blade doing his fist pump and...
Yeah.
Oh.
What's his joke at the end of the first one? Like, trying to run uphill or something?
Yeah, it's very hokey. But again, that was a good one. Then you look at like the Fantastic Four. Every time they try and redo the Fantastic Four, it's just a mess. Like they managed 2 good X-Men films, and then an awful one, and then another awful one, and then an amazing one, and then an awful one, and then an awful one.
Yeah. But I mean, that was Fox.
I mean, yeah, but it's still Marvel. Like, you got to remember that for most people, the distinction isn't who made them. It's this is associated with Marvel, so this is a Marvel film.
Yeah, but the Raimi Spider-Man good.
They are
apart from the Venom.
Yeah. See, I didn't think Venom was bad in it. Like he wasn't the worst Venom I've ever seen. He just wasn't as good as Venom could be.
No, and like if they'd just done Venom, without not the Hobgoblin, is he? Is he just the Green Goblin in it?
I think he's just the second Green Goblin. Yeah,
just the second Green Goblin. And Sandman. It's just like, just do Venom.
It's villain overload, and then they made the same mistake with bloody Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
and I feel like they're gonna do the same thing with Spider-Man 3. But I trust Marvel to do it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said at the start, I am very much a Spider-Man guy.
Yeah.
That's it. Watch the comic.
I will
watch the TV.
I will watch any Spider-Man media that comes out, even like the really awful, in my opinion, sorry people, like the really awful Disney XD Spider-Man cartoons. I still watched them, like just to see how they're adapting particular storylines and everything.
Yeah, they've got some good newish stuff as Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, they recently, I don't know which Spider-Man series it is, but I recently watched like the Superior Spider-Man arc, so where Dr. Octopus takes over Spidey's body and then slowly begins to empathise with his life as a hero and why he did what he did. But you also get the thing the comics did, which is finally confirmed that Peter is always holding back, because if he didn't, like he'd cut people in half when he hit them. And like the first time that Octavius Peter Parker punches someone, he punches Scorpion's jaw clean off. Like just jaw goes woo, and he's like, oh my god, he's so strong. I'm probably going to have to wrap it here because we're at like we're coming very close to 2 hours.
We have rambled for so long.
We have. I reckon I'm going to cut this down to about 40 minutes of content.
Yeah. We only mentioned Marvel like 5 times in our DC video.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we did too bad, but we'll see how that pans out.
It's hard. It's hard to talk about one superhero universe and those stories without comparing it to the other biggest.
They're eternally intertwined.
Like they to most people they are comics. DC and Marvel, they don't know about any other comics.
Exactly.
It's those two, and you're gonna compare them just like you compare this similar kind of media on TV and in books and stuff. Like
Inspector Morse and Inspector Frost. They were they get compared. They're both Inspector shows.
Yep. David Jason all the way.
Obviously. Right, well, thank you for listening. I've been Adam from Passable Media.
And I've been Chris.
And hope to do this again soon.
Hopefully, we'll pick another subject and ramble on.